You ever walk in a room and feel something ain't right, but can't put your finger on it? You just get this vibe, like the air shifted before you even said a word. That right there, that's your radar, that's your spirit talking. God didn't just throw you in the world blind. He gave you something better than eyesight. He gave you insight. Most folks walk around with their eyes open but their mind asleep. They're alive but they ain't awake. There's a big difference. You ever meet somebody and something in you just says, "Nah, I don't trust this one." That's not judgment. That's discernment. That's a skill you better sharpen in this life, because if you don't notice what's happening around you, somebody else will. And they'll use it to get ahead while you're sitting there confused. People reveal everything. You just gotta know where to look. We live in a world full of noise, everybody talking, everybody posting, everybody trying to show off or get noticed. But the ones who win the game, they're the ones who notice, not the ones who need to be noticed. You ever watch somebody and they smiling, they laughing, but their eyes look tired, their energy feels off? That's what I'm talking about. People can lie with their mouth, but their body, their energy, that don't lie. You gotta pay attention to how folks move when they think you ain't watching. I was at an event once, and this man came up all smiles, telling me how much he respected my work. All this, we gotta work together, talk. But while he's talking to me, he keep looking over my shoulder, couldn't stay focused. I noticed that. His words said one thing, but his body said something else. He wasn't really interested in me. He was trying to see who else was in the room that he could get next to. I clocked it in 5 seconds. That's the kind of awareness you need if you're trying to move up in life and not get played. Same thing with relationships. People show you who they are, but you don't always want to see it. That's why folks get heartbroken. They were looking, but they weren't noticing. Somebody tells you they love you, but never show up when you need them. Always got excuses. Always busy when you hurting. They don't love you like they say they do. You just ain't noticed it 'cause you too caught up in the words. Listen, love don't talk all day. It shows up. It's consistent. It's present. But you only gonna catch that if you watching the actions more than the talk. The truth is, some of the most dangerous people in your life ain't loud. They quiet. They agreeable. They blend in. They charm you. But if you notice, their patterns are off. They show up when it benefits them. They disappear when it doesn't. They clap when you lose louder than when you win. They ask questions not to support, but to gather info. You gotta stop assuming people mean well just 'cause they smile. Snakes don't hiss no more. They text good morning and act like they care. And you can't see that with a casual glance. You gotta notice. Now, let's talk about energy. You can feel when somebody don't rock with you. They ain't gotta say it. You can walk in a room and the vibe will shift. Folks stop talking, they look away, they smile, but it don't reach their eyes. That's real, and it ain't your job to fix that energy. It's your job to notice it so you don't stick around longer than you should. See, life gives you signals all day, but most folks ignore 'em. You keep getting sick in the same environment. That's your body talking. You keep feeling heavy around certain people. That's your soul trying to get out. But you stay out of habit, out of fear, out of hope. That's why you stuck. You looking for a break through in a place where your spirit is screaming, get out. You ever sit with somebody who talks a lot, but don't say nothing? Lot of folks sound deep, but ain't saying a word that means anything. You gotta listen with your spirit. If they talking about people more than purpose, if they gossiping more than they growing, they ain't on your level. You trying to elevate, and they still in the basement. And you ain't gotta be rude or confrontational. But you do gotta be aware. Because whoever you spend time with, that's who you slowly become. You don't even notice it happening. Next thing you know, you dressing like M, thinking like M, acting like M, and wondering why your life feels stuck in neutral. That's the danger of not noticing. You get caught in cycles. You ever been in a toxic cycle and didn't realize it till you were neck deep in it? That's because you weren't paying attention to the signs. You dated the same type of person 5 times in 5 different bodies. Same red flags, same drama, same ending, but you ain't noticed the pattern. Or maybe you did, but you ignored it. That's even worse. When you do notice something and still pretend like it ain't there, that's self. Sabotage dressed in denial. You gotta start observing people when they don't know you watching. Watch how they treat the janitor. Watch how they act when the waitress messes up their order. That's character. Watch who talks about others when they leave the room, because trust me, when you leave, they talking about you too. But we miss all this cause we're too busy trying to impress people who don't even care. You got folks out here trying to be liked by everybody, and the price of that approval is your awareness. Let me tell you something, life ain't about reacting to everything. Sometimes you gotta sit back, be quiet, and study. Study your environment, study your own triggers, study the seasons you're in. There are seasons when things ain't growing, not because you're failing, but because it's time to rest, to observe, to notice what you've been missing. That's where real growth happens, not when you're busy 24/7, but when you get still and start to see clearly, when you stop chasing and start understanding. People get mad when stuff don't work out, but truth is, most of y'all saw it coming. You just didn't want to accept it. You noticed the signs, but you brushed them off. You heard the disrespect in the joke, but laughed anyway. You saw the disloyalty, but told yourself it was a one-time thing. You felt the disconnect, but you kept going like it would fix itself. That ain't life punishing you. That's life trying to teach you, and every time you ignore it, the lesson gets louder. Even in business, opportunities don't always show up with lights and music. Sometimes it's a casual conversation, a friend of a friend, a delayed flight where you meet somebody in passing. You ever notice how some folks always seem to be in the right place at the right time? That ain't luck. That's awareness. They see what others overlook. They connect the dots quicker. They notice gaps in the market. They listen when people complain and realize that's a business opportunity. Meanwhile, everybody else is busy scrolling on their phone, complaining about how nothing ever happens for them. Let me bring it closer to home. Have you ever really noticed yourself? Like, not your outfit, not your mirror selfies, your patterns, your habits, the way you shut down when you feel ignored, the way you sabotage something good because deep down you don't feel worthy of it, the way you keep pushing love away, then cry about being lonely. That's the kind of stuff you gotta notice before you can fix it, and that takes courage, 'cause noticing the world is easy. Noticing yourself, that's where the real work is. You gotta be willing to look at your life like an investigator. Don't just live it, study it. Why do you get triggered by certain people? Why do you feel insecure around certain crowds? Why do you chase validation from folks who don't even value themselves? There's a reason. And if you dig deep enough, if you start noticing the patterns, you'll break free from stuff that's been holding you down for years. I'll say this too, a person who notices everything moves different. They don't talk just to fill silence. They don't react to every little thing. They don't need to prove a point every 5 seconds. Because when you notice everything, you know what's really going on. And when you know, you don't have to shout. You sit in the back of the room, observe, and make power moves without saying a word. That's the kind of presence that shakes a room, quiet awareness. You ever seen someone walk in and not say much, but everybody turns to look? That's not charisma. That's energy. That's someone who's aware. They've noticed themselves, noticed the room, and now they control it. People out here trying to be loud to get attention. But real power is silent. Real power is the ability to notice what others miss, to hear what's not being said, to see behind the smile, to understand that everything has a deeper layer. You ain't gotta be psychic to win. You just gotta pay attention. And once you master that, once you start really noticing everything around you and inside you, you'll never walk the same again. You'll stop begging, stop chasing, stop explaining, you'll start choosing. Start discerning, start thriving, because now you're no longer reacting. You're reading the room, reading the people, reading yourself. And that, right there, changes the whole game. When you start noticing everything, life ain't no longer a mystery. It becomes a classroom. Every conversation becomes a lesson. Every interaction is a clue. You stop just going through life and you start growing through life. That's a whole different mindset. Most people just float through their day. Same routine, same thoughts, same circle, same reactions. They wonder why nothing changes, but they ain't changed the way they see. They live life on autopilot. Wake up, complain, scroll, eat, complain again, sleep. Rinse and repeat, but when you become a person who notices, you wake up with new eyes, you see what you used to miss, like your kids. Let's talk about that. You got a son, and he's been acting different lately. You think it's just a phase, but he ain't talking like he used to, ain't laughing the same. His room is messier, his eyes more tired. Now, most parents brush it off, say, he's just being a teenager. No. If you noticed, you'd see that boy might be dealing with something heavy. Depression don't always knock loud. Sometimes it whispers. Same with your daughter. She used to light up a room. Now she barely comes out hers. You gotta notice those little shifts. You can't always wait for someone to tell you what's wrong. Sometimes you gotta see it, and let me tell you, you ain't really loving nobody if you ain't paying attention to them. Love is not just flowers and birthday texts. It's not just date nights and romantic dinners. It's paying attention. It's remembering the little things. Noticing when someone's smile looks a little forced. Noticing when the energy in the room changes. Love is looking at someone and saying, you say you're okay, but something tells me you're not. Talk to me. That's how you connect. That's how you keep relationships from falling apart. But it goes both ways. You gotta notice when people stop clapping for you too. That one hurts. You start winning, and suddenly the same folks who used to cheer for you get real quiet. Their compliments get fewer. Their presence gets rare. You can feel it. You can sense the shift. They'll say they're proud of you, but the tone don't match the words. That's envy in disguise. And if you don't notice it, you'll keep dragging people into your future who are secretly praying you fail. That's a heavy truth, but it's real. You gotta stop confusing time with loyalty. Just cause someone been around for years don't mean they belong in your next season. Watch how people treat you when you set boundaries. When you say no, when you stop being available 24/7, that's when their real heart shows. Some folks love the version of you that bends, that sacrifices, that shrinks, but the moment you grow, the moment you elevate, the love turns cold. You gotta notice that so you don't take poison disguised as loyalty into the future you prayed for. And let's get into environments. Sometimes the place you're in is the problem. You ever walk into a room and feel drained before you even sit down? Like the energy is just heavy. That's not your imagination. Environments carry weight. Some places are full of bitterness, gossip, laziness, fear. And if you ain't paying attention, that stuff gets in your spirit. Next thing you know, you second guessing yourself, you doubting your dreams, not because you changed, but because the room changed you. That's why you gotta protect your space. And to do that, you gotta notice what each environment does to your energy. I know people who keep going back to jobs that drain the life out of them. Every Sunday night they get sick, not because they're ill, but because their soul is rejecting the space. But they say, well, it's a paycheck. Listen, there's a cost to staying somewhere your spirit has outgrown. Peace is expensive, but it's worth more than a direct deposit every 2 weeks. You gotta notice when your season somewhere is over. That applies to jobs, friendships, habits, even versions of yourself that no longer serve you. Growth starts when you stop ignoring what you already know deep down. You know that habit is killing your potential. You know that person ain't good for your heart. You know that mindset is outdated. But you keep holding on cause it's comfortable. Comfort is a liar. It'll whisper, stay here, it's safe. While your dream is out there screaming, take a risk. And the only way you'll hear that scream is if you slow down enough to notice. Some of y'all been praying for a sign, and the sign already came. It just didn't look the way you expected. That opportunity, that closed door, that no. That delay, it was all part of the answer. You just missed it cause you weren't paying attention. You know who wins in life, the folks who can see opportunity when it's dressed like hard work. Opportunity rarely shows up looking sexy. It comes in early mornings, in long nights, in extra effort. But if you're watching, if you're noticing, you'll grab it before somebody else does. You ever watch two people in the same situation and wonder how one succeeded and the other didn't? Same environment, same access, different eyes. One person saw the cracks and squeezed through. The other waited for the door to swing open. Life don't always give you a wide open door. Sometimes it gives you a window just big enough for your faith to fit through. You just gotta notice it in time, even your own words. You need to listen to your self-talk. Some of y'all speak defeat and don't even realize it. You say I'm broke, like it's a personality trait. You say I'm tired, like it's your identity. Words carry power. Life and death is in the tongue. And if you start noticing the things you say, you'll realize half the stuff holding you back is coming from you. The way you talk about yourself. The way you describe your life. Your vocabulary is painting your reality. You keep saying, nothing good ever happens to me, and guess what? It won't. Not cause life hates you, but because your words are seeds and you keep planting weeds. So check your language. Pay attention to how you speak in moments of stress or fear or disappointment. Do you talk yourself down, or do you talk yourself through it? Do you say, I can't? Or do you say, I'll figure it out? That's a habit of winners. They notice their own thoughts before those thoughts become a mood. A mood becomes a decision, and that decision becomes regret. Your life ain't just shaped by what happens to you. It's shaped by how you interpret what happens. That's the real power. Let me say something about peace. A lot of people say they want peace, but they don't pay attention to what steals it. You can't say you want peace and then keep opening the door to chaos. You gotta notice who or what robs your calm. It could be a friend who always brings drama, a habit that wrecks your routine, a mindset that keeps you overthinking at 3 a.m. If you don't notice the thief, you'll keep losing your peace and blaming everything else but the real cause. You can't fix what you refuse to face, and you can't face what you don't notice. And when it comes to blessings, man, most folks miss their blessing cause it don't come wrapped the way they wanted. You praying for strength, and God gives you a struggle. You praying for wisdom, and he gives you problems. You praying for love, and he gives you loneliness, to teach you how to love yourself first. But if you ain't looking with spiritual eyes, you'll miss the miracle. You'll walk right past your answer because it was wearing work boots instead of wings. Stop looking for magic. Start noticing miracles. I remember a season where everything felt like it was falling apart. I was broke, had more questions than answers. Nothing was working, but something told me, pay attention. So I started noticing things I used to overlook. Like the fact that even when money was tight, I always had just enough. Like how certain people walked out of my life right before my breakthrough. Like how my failure was actually pushing me in a new direction. See, sometimes life is redirecting you through pain, but you'll only see that when you stop panicking long enough to notice the pattern. Faith requires awareness. It requires that you trust what you can't see while noticing the signs that are already around you. Faith ain't blind. Faith is focused. It sees beyond the now. It listens deeper. It walks slower, but with more confidence. That's why people with real faith don't stress the way others do. They notice the storm, but they also notice the shelter. They notice the chaos, but they also notice the calm inside them. They don't deny reality. They just interpret it different. You ever see someone who just seems unbothered, not because their life is perfect, but because they've learned the art of noticing what matters? That's a skill you gotta develop. You gotta stop giving your energy to everything that moves. Not every comment needs a response. Not every battle needs a warrior. Sometimes the most powerful move is to observe, not react. To notice something but not let it own your emotions. That's emotional maturity, that's self-control, that's peace. And finally, let me say this. The most successful people I've met in life didn't get there just by grinding. They got there by noticing. They noticed patterns in people, patterns in markets, patterns in themselves. They watched more than they talked. They read the energy in a room before they spoke. They picked up on timing. They knew when to move and when to be still. They weren't lucky. They were aware. And if you want to elevate in your life, your relationships, your calling, you gotta learn that too. You gotta become someone who sees what others ignore. Noticing is a superpower. It changes how you think, how you move, how you love, how you lead, how you protect your peace. And once you got it, you'll never live on autopilot again. So let me leave you with this. Life ain't waiting on you to get serious. Your future ain't on pause. Right now, the lessons are happening, the people are revealing themselves, the signs are showing up. But if you ain't paying attention, you'll miss the whole blessing. You gotta open your eyes not just to see, but to observe. Pay attention to what drains you. Pay attention to what fuels you. Pay attention to who claps when you win and who disappears when you lose. That's the difference between folks who barely survive and those who rise above. Don't just go through life with your eyes open, go through it with your spirit awake. Because once you master the art of noticing, you stop surviving blindly and start living purposely. And that's when everything changes.